Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Raven Rabbit Wellness Studio podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Jackie Cope, and I'm here to talk to you about all things life, healing, and happiness with the spiritual indigenous approach. Enjoy the episode. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Raven Rabbit Wellness Studio podcast. I'm your host, Reverend Dr. Jackie Cope, and I'm so excited to welcome you to episode 15 of my podcast. It has been such a fun ride so far, and I've been enjoying all the feedback I've been getting, and I'm just very grateful to be here and that you take time out of your day to listen to what I have to say and what I have to share. All of our paths are so unique, and there is no one right way to do this path. And I'm sure one day I'll look back on some of these first episodes here and be like, oh man, what was I thinking? But that's the part of spiritual growth and spiritual understanding. And it's totally okay and fine. We're exactly where we should be. So if you found my podcast, you're here, you're meant to hear this message. It's for you. That's coming in through very strong for me with my guides. If you found this is for you today. So I'm excited to share this, and that makes me even more excited for today's plan. I'm just pulling up my notes here for what I want to talk about. So before we get started today, I'd like to do an invocation. And my invocation is very purposeful, and it connects to today's topic. So here we go. Dear Creator, please make me a pure, incorruptible channel of loving, healing, divine presence as I speak, and provide me with all the protection, guidance, and wisdom I need. Only allow the divine and healed to be present with us today. So thank you, and welcome to episode 15. And today we're talking about my Reiki journey. So that'll basically be the title of this. I couldn't want to say what is Reiki, but I'm going to get deeper into that, I think, in another episode. Today's more about my path to Reiki healing, how I got there, why I do it, a little basis of what it is, so you know what we're talking about, nothing too deep, and how I've connected it to my indigenous ways of being, because I think that's really important to talk about. And if there are indigenous people out there listening who are Reiki healers or thinking about it, I hope that this message encourages you and we can build a community. So first I want to talk about why I practice Reiki. So in June of 2023, which was this year, I had finished my bachelor's in metaphysics, and as my reward, I'm trying to pick healthier rewards for myself now. My family was always very food-based, which sometimes that's fine, but it doesn't need to be everything. I was like, I'm going to take this Reiki course that's been on my mind. That's going to be my reward. And the floodgates opened in that course. I loved it. And then this past weekend, December 2023, I did Reiki 2. So I'm now Reiki 2 trained Reiki healer. And I'm just really proud of that. So I'm kind of coming off the high of that from this weekend because that was so amazing. And I really thought I need to make a podcast episode about this. And there'll be several, I think, about Reiki, because there's so many things to get into and to explore and to connect back to your ways of healing and culture and being. So why I practice it is I love energy healing. That's just something I think that was in my indigenous ways of being, that I just knew deep down that I knew there was such thing as energy healing. That comes from childhood experiences, and I think that comes from past lives and my culture. So it was just out there. I love energy healing. And the way we kind of say it now is I love good vibes. Reiki is very high vibrational. So I like that atmosphere. I like being in that space of healing, in healing energy. I needed something deeper to help me on my healing journey. And that's what Raven Rabbit's all about. I've been sharing about life, healing, and happiness. Healing is a huge component to that. And there are so many ways to heal. The list could go on forever. I will have a podcast probably for years to come because of the methods of healing that are available to us. So I knew I needed some deeper healing. I did my metaphysics program. It felt great. I felt really good, but I knew I had more internal work to do. My metaphysics program was a bit more academic, even though I was meditating. So there was that applied piece. There was affirmations I've talked about, but I needed some hands-on healing energy. I love also giving healing to others in this form. I was already kind of naturally inclined to do that. And I think it came from several places. From growing up with that thought in my mind. I think it came a little bit from Christianity and church. You hold your hand out towards the person you're praying to. You might have done this in church. That's exactly what it is. That's energy healing. You're sending your love and your vibration that come from your hand chakras. Hopefully you're very connected when you're doing that. A lot of people just don't know how much power is involved in that, because that's coming from the divine down through you, channeling out your hands. When you're doing hands-on praying, that's energy healing. So for me, it's a form of energy healing. It was just something I really enjoyed. Like, that felt so powerful to me when we prayed like that in group. It didn't happen often. And I had an inclination to do it with a client before. She was more my friend, not a client, so it was more safe, and I asked her if I could, and I was a baby and all of that, but you have to start somewhere. And I had that inclination then. So that's why I do Reiki and energy healing. So what is Reiki? You might have heard I was pronouncing it wrong to begin with. It's okay. When you're getting into your healing journey and your spiritual awakening, you're going to say words wrong. I was calling it Reiki. I was reading it phonetically. I was a kindergarten teacher, and that's okay. And even Reiki is incorrect. It's the English version of the Japanese word, because I was just listening to how to really say it in Japanese, and it's much different. But it's a Japanese practice, and specifically I went to training for Yasui Reiki, and so I'm in that lineage of healing, and it has a direct translation that is beautiful, aligns with my culture very well, and that is universal life force healing. That's what the word Reiki translates to in English. Universal life force healing. So we could break that down a little bit, thinking about the metaphysics principles I've shared with you, and as you're learning in your path. Universal, very important. We're all connected back to the universe. Everything is divinely and universally connected. We're all interconnected. So we have this universal energy. Things have life force. And I've talked about this with crystals in my indigenous beliefs. Everything has life force. It has a life force energy. So in simple terms, we could think of animals, humans, plants. A lot of people connect to those life force energies. Some people connect like I do with rocks, mountains, things like stars. Those things also have life force energy. And then the last word of that is healing, because all of those things can go through trauma and need healing and repair. So universal life force healing is what Reiki breaks down to. So in my Reiki 2 class, when I said I was talking about objects and stuff, we can even send Reiki healing to our objects to help them become more aligned and bring them into high vibrational life force. That is just the definition of Reiki. And I will do, I think, another podcast getting more into what it is. But for this topic today, it was more of my journey to it. That's what it is in a nutshell. So somebody who goes to a Reiki practitioner will get universal life force healing, and that is typically done through hands over healing. So their hands will be hovered over the body, not touching, sending life force energy in a very divine way to certain parts of the body and the whole body for deep healing energetically. There's also hands-on as well, where there's touch and there's Reiki massage. There's so many different forms. What I practice, what I know, hands over healing. And that's common. So Reiki was very much connected to my childhood, as I told you. It was something that I was already doing that I didn't know. I was doing it to myself. And I think that comes from past lives and indigenous knowledge. So the time that it's most vivid in my head that I was giving myself hands over healing was when I hurt my knee in high school. After I hurt my knee, I would spend time in bed. I would get really calm and meditate, and I would hover my hands over my knee and say things like, heal, you'll be better, I'm sending healing energy to my knee, it's gonna get better. I was a kid, so it wasn't that elaborate. There wasn't much for me to say, but I just thought I was sending it love, I was sending it healing, I was telling it I wasn't mad at it, but we just have to get better because we have to function in life. So it was my very, adolescent way of sending healing energy to a specific part of my body that had went through a lot of trauma because I hurt it. It had surgery. So that was what I was doing as a kid. And I did it to other parts of my body too, to calm myself down. I'd hold my hands over my head and in front of my face when I would have a headache. It was more just I was more doing of a calm meditation, but I had that inclination to use my hands. And at the time, I didn't know why or what I was doing. I never even put much thought into it. I just did it. And then I forgot that I even did it. It wasn't until I got back into this metaphysics program, I started reading the section about hands over healing. And I thought, it made me go back. And I'm I've done that my whole life, and I never put any words to it. I never thought to tell my mom or my family, oh, hey, I do this thing with my hands and I think good thoughts and send it to my body part that hurts. Never thought anything of it. I'm not sure where it came from or why I did it. So that's why I knew when I found it was such confirmation in my spiritual journey. As I finally had the vocabulary and understanding of what I was wanting to naturally do anyways. So that's how it connected to my childhood. And when I started my metaphysics program, I read, it was a small section. I told you it had a bunch of modules in it. It was a very small section dedicated to hands-on and hands-over healing. And then once I was done with my metaphysics program with my ministers, I was allowed to do it. And I thought to myself, that wasn't deep enough. There was no technique, there was no structure, there was no, this is how you start from the beginning, middle, and end. This is what you do, when scenario A happens and B happens. I liked the idea. I already knew I did it naturally, but I wanted structure. I'm a teacher. I told you I go back to that all the time. What's the game plan? What's the lesson plan? How's the appointment going to look? How am I going to do this for people in a fair and systematic way? So, and healing can be systematic because we have to have best practices. We can't just be willy-nilly all the time. So, I started to kind of look into that. I wasn't looking into it too deeply. It was something on the side that deeply fascinated me and I wanted to know more about, and I kind of just put it out there, if the right thing comes along with this hands-on healing stuff, it'll come and I will do it. And the place that I found it was online, and it was from my Reiki teacher that I ended up going to finally this year. And I don't remember when I found her website. I know I was familiar with her website and I was going back to it a lot. It just really intrigued me. I was being called to go there. I don't know if I think I found that website before my metaphysics program, but again, the word Reiki had no meaning to me. It did not resonate with me, so I didn't see it. I saw it, but no idea what it was, because it wasn't spelled out in such plain English as my metaphysics book as hands over healing. So something clicked with me. I went back to her website because I know I had already found it. I'd already looked at it, was already deeply intrigued. I'm let me see what this lady has on her website. And I started reading. I'm oh, this is it. This is what I'm looking for. And I got really lost in her website. I kind of did other Google searches, but when you start looking into spiritual things online, you have to take everything with a grain of salt. There's lots of misinformation out there, so it's best to always go to a well-established practitioner of whatever might interest you. So that goes with anything. So if you're wanting to dabble with something and you're interested, don't go too deep online. Check intuitively, like we've talked about. Maybe a name will come to you. Maybe a area in town will come to you. Look there and see if you're being intuitively called there, and then see what kind of practitioners there of the thing you're interested in. Feel the vibes of that, and then go explore it. So that's basically what I did. I had found her website. I looked at a few more different sites of people who did Reiki training, and I was like, not as deeply called to them. They looked neat, they looked cool, but there was just something about that first one. I was like, I think that's where I'm meant to go to learn this, and it definitely was. So I signed up for her program. I said that's going to be my reward for getting the last bit of this program done and get everything turned in. So once I got everything turned in, I signed up for her class. It was all timed perfect. I was so happy to be there. And then I started to learn more deeply about what Reiki is, where it comes from, and instantly in my head, I was making a ton of connections. So I want to talk about a little bit between the connection between Reiki and my indigenous ways of being. And this might not be true for all indigenous American Native people, but this is what resonated with me. And we do have a lot of similarities. We're all very different, but we do have some major common connections. So what I saw in my connections between taking Reiki 1 and Reiki 2 is I saw the themes of sweat lodge like throughout my program. So the way that natives, how we come together and we go to sweat together, and it's a meditative experience, and so is Reiki training and Reiki healing. You are having a meditative experience. You're going through it with usually a group of people with the training, not just healing with a practitioner. Sometimes, I guess there's group Reiki healing. So yeah, you could be collective and you're healing from something. Most people go to sweat because they either want to stay on their spiritual path or they have something or many things they're trying to heal from. So to me, it had the sweat qualities of purpose. Like, we're here to heal, we're here to be collective, we're here to be on a positive mindset. We know these things are happening in our lives that are hard, but we're going to come together and work on those things in a spiritual way. So it has that collectivism healing that I find in a sweat lodge. Reiki, and then my next one I wrote was that collective healing. So that's just sweat lodge, and some of it's celebratory, but sometimes it's a lot meant for some deeper healing. Collective healing happens all the time within Native culture. We come together for so many life events that are so good for our soul. They're good medicine. Coming of age ceremonies, like, there's just so many out there. So we come together a lot for life events, and I see Reiki as that coming together, because I think our Western culture has become so individualistic, we forget that we could heal with others. We think that we have to heal on our own. And even sometimes, like, going to our counselor and therapist can be an impersonal way of healing. It's one way of healing, and it's great, but Western counseling it's more clinical. It's very set in theory and academics and all of that. And it doesn't, if you're not going to a spiritual place, it doesn't always have that spiritual connection. Where Reiki has that spiritual healing with another person who's there giving the healing. Therapists can give us great ideas, they can give us guidance, but they can't force you to do anything, neither can your Reiki healer. But there's a difference between the way the healing's given. We go to a counselor to get advice. We go to a Reiki healer to feel the healing. they're very different and they serve their different purposes. So I like that it goes back to that collective. It's a team effort. With the Reiki, there's so many pieces in the Reiki. It's not just the hands-on healing. They use a lot of modalities. So I see those modalities connecting back to indigenous culture. She played music the entire time. That makes me think of singing and drum. It all goes back together. There was music. There was crystals. There were just, nature inside, like feathers, flowers, bringing that Mother Nature piece back inside, essential oils. So to me, there was all that deep connection back to Mother Earth with Reiki healing. So now that I've learned Reiki, I want to learn it to its potential, what it is, and how it's done in that culture. But I am also adapting it as I go, and I'm definitely having a different experience than my classmates. I haven't been in a Reiki with another American Indian, so I have no comparison. But I know the things that I'm seeing are my Washoe ancestors coming through, because that's my spiritual connection to the other side. And so what I experience in a meditation is typically far different than what my classmates would share, and which is fine. So automatically my Reiki's already adapting to fit within my culture, to fit within my gifts, and going to be like what my clients come to me for, because it's going to be slightly different. There's going to be all the same basis and stuff with my Reiki, but I offer something just slightly different because my guides and my life experience are different. And that's what's good about Reiki practitioners. We all have our different, unique gifts and culture. So right now I'm adapting that Reiki and understanding how it fits with me. I think there's a lot of connection between Eastern tradition and Native ways of being, because it's the ancient way of being, using the natural holistic ways of healing and going through life. So there's a lot of connections there. That's what I've been specifically writing my master's in metaphysics about, the connection between metaphysics and Native ways of being. Because a lot of times, I'm going to go on my tangent here about that, because it's important, and I'm going to make a whole episode about it once my master's is done. But when we think about spirituality now in this space, we think of Eastern ways of being and Western ways of being. What my whole thesis is Native Americans, we don't have an Eastern and a Western way of being. We are all four directions. We are the balance of it all. And ultimately, there's 7 directions. So we are east, south, west, north, above, present, and below. There is no just east and western way. So that's my argument with my thesis, is we just view things completely different because of that. And that's what I'm seeing in my Reiki too. That's coming through to me very strong with the medicine wheel, and that all 4 directions are going to be very important in my practice. That was my little tangent, and I have more with that in the future as I write and do more on my master's. And that goes to my next point too, of how I'm connecting it, is I see an importance placed on mind, body, spirit, and emotion. That goes back to the 4 directions. There's a huge emphasis on that in Reiki, because we're healing so much with healing energy. It might be the mind we're healing, the physical body like I used to with my knee. It could be the spirit we're healing, which is what a lot of people are looking for, and that emotional piece that we're looking for in these times. My gifts in energy work is I have a strong gift for energy healing and energy reading. I've had a hard time with defining my gifts. I know what they are, but to have the words to explain what they are is the hard part. Just like it took me a lot, like my whole life, to figure out that my hands-on healing was Reiki. I can read energy, and I can translate that into healing, and I can just read it in general. And we all have that gift. That just doesn't make me unique. Lots of people can tune into that gift. I know I have more, and it's about going down that spiritual journey path and strengthening them all in divine time. So those were my thoughts I wanted to share on Reiki. I just want to tap in and see if there's anything else to share. I feel really good with what was shared. I brought up at the beginning that if you've stumbled across this episode, if this maybe is your first one or you keep listening, you're meant to hear this message in some way. The word of Reiki and hands-on and hands-over energy healing is something that I think really needs to be explored more. As we've moved into our Western ways of being and modern ways of being, we have lost that piece. You go to the hospital to get treated, you go to the dentist, you go wherever you go. There's no energy healing involved. It is a transactional thing that happens. The doctor, it's a very physical plane. They see you in the 3D, they do lab tests, but we're missing a whole piece of true healing. And that comes into that medicine wheel, that mind, spirit, and emotion. The Western world's got lots of body answers. They can look at the body and tell you all kinds of things. But connecting that back to mind, spirit, and emotion is so important. And we all have such unique energetic blueprints that our combinations are also different. So it's really important to be working on healing all 4 of those aspects if you want true healing. So you might think, oh, here's another thing to share about Reiki. You might think consciously you need one healing and for an aspect of your life. You may think, I have sinus problems, I need healing for that. I just did that for myself on Reiki too. I have sinus problems. I was sending healing energy there, working with an infection symbol to help rid myself of these constant sinus infections. I consciously know that. But there's other parts of us that know the energy. The subconscious part knows also that I needed something more than just that. That's what I know. That's what's showing up in the physical. But when I gave myself the energy to my face, to my sinuses, I started detoxifying in lots of ways, not just one. I have a bit of a breakout on my face going on. I'm going to the bathroom a lot. My body is ridding more than what I was consciously thinking of. Same thing too. I was giving lots of Reiki to my stomach at one point over the fall, and I thought it was for one thing when really it turned out to be something completely different that I wasn't even thinking about. So if you're thinking that you need healing in some type of way, follow that. That's your first sign. But don't be surprised if more's connected to it. Spirit's going to try to talk to us in any way we will listen. So if it brings up something serious enough for us to take seriously, such as my nose irritating me all the time, I'm going to go finally seek out what I truly need for that. Because obviously allergy pills these past 2 or 3 years have not been the answer. That has not been working. So it's something else, and it's going to stay until I address it. Same thing with anything you might be chronically facing. It is there for a reason. Spirit is trying to communicate something to you. That's what I was called to share to wrap this up. So happy you came to this episode today. I really hope you go back and start thinking about what you need energy healing wise. And remember, energy healing goes back to your mind, body, spirit, emotion / heart. There are many aspects to energy healing. And once you work on those things, there's energy healing that needs to take place around you. And I'm not talking about influencing other people. I'm talking about the foods you eat, the house you live in. I'm talking about those physical things around you may need attention and healing as well. When I got home from Reiki training on Sunday night, I started testing everything. I was so excited. This was a piece I didn't know. I was testing my crystals and testing my food, and I was just so excited to see the life force of everything. And a lot of things in my home need to be addressed. I didn't address them all then because I was tired. But I've got a list of healing work to do from this weekend. I've got past life healing to work on. I have working on my physical space healing to work on. There's always so much. If you're interested in any of this healing, please go to my website, reach out. I'm definitely interested in helping and guiding you through this process. If you live in the Southern California area, would love to work with you one-on-one in your spiritual healing process. So I got spiritual coaching, life coaching, Reiki healing, card reading, and I'm just so excited to explore with you and help you along your journey. Thank you so much for being here today, and listening. And I can't wait to share my next episode with you all. This has been such a beautiful journey. Thank you, Creator, for bringing us together to share and to think and to just spend some time really reflecting on our own healing. And so it is. If this podcast helped you out in any way, you got a good story out of it, you enjoyed it, it maybe enlightened your day, please share this podcast on any social media you have. Let your friends know about it, your families know about it. That is the best way to thank a podcaster and small business owner. Share away.